This is the iPhone 16, and it is arguably one of the best base model iPhones made in the last 3 years. The 13 was amazing, had some good improvements on battery life, good cameras, just amazing overall. The 14, well, it was a complete joke. It was basically the same as the 13. And the 15, well, had some nice improvements, better camera, USB-C finally, but it still lacks some features comparing it to its Pro counterpart. And the 16, well, it's almost perfect. There are some things, but I'll talk about it later. The design of the iPhone 16 is very similar to its counterparts, the 15, 14, 13, and so on. The new camera design is basically the same as on the iPhone 12. On the back, it does feature a really nice matte glass, and it just looks really nice. It looks a lot more premium than that glossy glass that attracted so many fingerprints. On the front, we have a really nice 6.1 inch 60Hz Retina XDR, or whatever fancy term Apple uses for their OLED displays. Down here we have a USB-C, USB 2.0, not 3.0, but whatever. At least we have USB-C now. That is really good, finally. And on the side we have new camera control button. We'll talk about it later. Right now, all I'm gonna say, it's a bit of a gimmick, but it does have potential. And on the side we have the action button. The action button is actually really nice. You can use it for simple things such as a flashlight, or just the ringer switch, or you can even create crazy shortcuts. Even Android people that have Android phones that they've never even tried Apple, they said that the action button is really cool and they would want to see it on their phone. Well, the cameras, because in 2024 that is what phone manufacturers only talk about, how good the cameras are. Unlike 6 years ago where they talk about a new design, how big the screen to body ratio is, stuff like that. Now they mostly just talk about how we made these crazy improvements to the cameras and it takes better low light, stuff like that. And the cameras on the iPhone 16 are really great. The main sensor on this phone is a 48 megapixel main lens, and it takes some amazing photos. Comparing it to the iPhone 14 Pro, here we have the same shot, and it was shot in the maximum resolution. So for the 14 Pro it was in ProRAW, and for the 16 it was in HEIF max format, and the 16 took a better photo than the 14 Pro just by detail wise. I'm not gonna talk about colors, because the ProRAW format is better for color grading, if you actually want to edit your own picture. But detail wise, the 16 had much more detail than the 14 Pro with its ProRAW format, and that file size of like 100 megabytes compared to the 16's HEIF max format, which was only around 18 megabytes. And that is just amazing that the 16 took a better picture with its HEIF max format than the ProRAW format. And the other lens on this phone, the 12 megapixel 0.5x lens, is also really good. We've been having the same lens probably for the last couple generations of iPhone, so we didn't have a lot of improvement there. The first improvement we had in resolution was actually on the 16 Pro, because that one has a 48 megapixel 0.5x lens. And the video on this phone is also really good. iPhones, they've been known for having really good video for the past years, especially now with Apple Log on the Pro phones. Everything is just really good in that department. But the new thing this year is the camera control button, and this thing allows you to do a couple things. It allows you to zoom, it allows you to change exposure, it allows you to change focus, it also allows you to change the style in your picture. And that is a cool thing, but I'm probably not gonna use it because I don't like a filter in my photo. I like to go later in Lightroom and actually edit it, take a couple minutes, on each photo and change it the way I like it. But I feel like some people that use like Instagram filters, they're into that. It could be a cool thing. The camera control button right now, it's a bit of a gimmick, it doesn't have that many features. And the other thing with it is that it's kind of hard to reach. It's really a bit farther out the way than most people liked it to be. I wish it was a little bit closer so it would be easier to use. But overall, the cameras on the phone are amazing. The camera control button is a gimmick. Now, the other new thing this year is Apple Intelligence, or basically Apple's version of AI. And that is probably one of the biggest gimmicks on this phone. I thought it was gonna be a lot more better, I thought it's gonna be like crazy, like whoa, AI on your phone, but in reality, using it, I mind this was recorded in the like December 18th, around there. So many of the newer Apple Intelligence features that came out during 18.2, I didn't have the chance to use them. So this is me speaking Apple Intelligence iOS 18.1. And the writing tools, I guess they are cool. It's like having ChatGPT directly in either mail or messages. What was the other thing? The cleanup tool, that was actually really cool. Sometimes it worked really well, like especially with clouds or stuff that is less detailed and is farther away. But things that are closer, it didn't do that well. You had to do it a couple times, or just not even bother doing it, because sometimes it would mess it up and it would just look like it was photoshopped. So overall, as of the time that when I recorded this video, this was a bit of a gimmick. But with iOS 18.2, there are some things that are actually pretty cool, and I might talk about it in a future video. Well, alrighty everybody, I guess to sum things up, the iPhone 16 is one of the best base models iPhones that we had. The design is really nice. The feature set on this phone, they added the action button. They also didn't say that only the pros get the camera control button. Now we have Apple Intelligence, which hopefully it'll get better. And USB-C that we already had on the 15. Overall, it is probably one of the best iPhones, like base model iPhones that we had since probably the 13. But the iPhone 16 is not for me, because sadly, once you go Pro, you can't go back, because only the Pros get 120 hertz. And come on, Apple, just, I don't know, put at least 90 hertz, because 60 hertz is not that bad on an iPhone, but it is noticeable. I hope you did enjoy this review, and of course, fly safe.